When Sydney Sweeney walked out of Kevin Feige's office in tears, she had been permanently expelled from the Marvel Universe. But she knew she deserved it, because what she had done 48 hours ago was unforgivable. As the scorching August sun of Los Angeles hit the glass facade of Marvel Studios' massive building in Burbank, Sydney Sweeney was living through the worst day of her life. The tears streaming down her face had ruined her carefully applied makeup. Her hands were still trembling, clutching the cardboard box containing her personal items from the trailer she'd called home for the past 3 months. Kevin Feige's cold stare kept replaying in her mind. The legendary president of Marvel had looked at her like she was a stranger, a betrayer, a disappointment. Yet just 3 months ago, she had sat at the same table with this man, raising champagne glasses to toast the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with her as Spider-Woman. "You've ruined a $150 million production, Sydney," Feige had said, his voice devoid of the warmth she'd once known. Not just the film, but Marvel's reputation too. The security guards escorting her out avoided eye contact. Word had already spread through the lot like wildfire. Sydney Sweeney, the rising star who is supposed to be the new face of Marvel's Phase 5, was being terminated. Fired. Banished from the kingdom of superheroes. 6 months ago, Sydney's life was completely different. She had just finished the 3rd season of Euphoria and was one of Hollywood's most sought-after young actresses. The critics praised her range, her vulnerability, her ability to convey deep emotion with just a glance. Every major studio wanted her for their next big project. Her manager Catherine Chen had called her one morning with excitement that Sydney had never heard before in her voice. Catherine had been in the business for 20 years, had represented Oscar winners and box office champions, but this was different. "Sydney, sit down and take a deep breath. Marvel wants you." Sydney's heart nearly stopped. She was in her kitchen making coffee and nearly dropped the mug. Every actor's dream, to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. To wear the suit, to be immortalized as a superhero, to join the ranks of Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans. For which role? She asked breathlessly, already knowing but needing to hear it. "Spider-Woman. You'll have your own film, and you'll be a new member of the Avengers." Sydney had cried with joy at that moment. Not the artful tears she could summon on command for the camera, but real, messy, grateful tears. When she called her mother in Spokane to share the news, the silence on the phone said everything. Her mother was crying too. "My baby girl is going to be a superhero," her mother had whispered. Marvel's offer was incredible, a 5-film deal, guaranteed $75 million. $15 million for the first film, increasing fees for each sequel, plus merchandise rights, video game royalties, theme park appearances. The total package exceeded $100 million. It was more money than Sydney had ever dreamed of, more than her family had seen in generations. "You'll never have to worry about money again," Catherine had said. "This is generational wealth, Sydney. Your kids' kids will be set." But Catherine didn't know how wrong she was. Neither did Sydney realize that in a few months, she'd lose it all because she trusted the wrong person. The person she'd trusted most in the world. When contract negotiations began, Sydney's lawyer Michael Chen had set up camp in CAA's largest conference room. The walls were glass, offering a view of Century City, and the table was covered with documents, contracts, writers, and addendums. Marvel didn't just hire actors. They acquired them, body and soul. Pay attention to Clause 47B, Sydney. It's very strict. Sydney read through the dense legal language. Talent may not make any social media posts about Marvel content without explicit written permission from Marvel Studios during production and for 3 years after. This rule covers set photos, costume details, script information, and all production materials. In case of violation, the contract will be immediately terminated and a $50 million penalty will be applied. $50 million? Sydney's voice cracked. Is this standard?
For Marvel, yes.
Spoiler control is very important to them. They lost millions because of Tom Holland's spoilers. Mark Ruffalo once accidentally live-streamed audio from Thor, Ragnarok. They don't take chances anymore.
Sydney had laughed.
Tom Holland's inability to keep secrets was legendary in Hollywood. But she was different. She was professional. She followed rules. She'd grown up in a military family where discipline and discretion were valued above all else. "I won't be another Tom Holland," she'd said confidently, signing her name with a flourish. The room had laughed. Even the Marvel executives smiled. They liked her. She was young, talented, beautiful, and most importantly, she seemed trustworthy. 3 weeks later came the moment Sydney had dreamed about since she was 7 years old, watching Tobey Maguire swing through New York. The costume fitting. The Marvel costume department was a fortress. Located in a nondescript building in Burbank, it required 3 different security clearances to enter. Inside, it was like Santa's workshop for superheroes. Mannequins wore various iterations of iconic costumes. Captain America's shields lined one wall. In the corner, Sydney spotted what looked like Thor's hammer. The day she first wore the Spider-Woman costume, Sydney felt like she'd been transformed. The red and black suit was a marvel of engineering, form-fitting but flexible, with hidden padding that gave her an athletic silhouette. The material was some space-age fabric that regulated temperature and wicked away sweat. Lisa Wong, head of the costume department, circled her like an artist examining a sculpture. Lisa was a legend. She'd been designing Marvel costumes since the first Iron Man film. "You look amazing, Sydney. But remember, no one should see this costume until it's released." "No one." "Of course. I'm a professional. I'm serious," Lisa said, her tone shifting. "We had an incident with another actor. One photo leaked, and Disney lost $50 million in merchandising deals. The toy companies need the reveal to be a surprise. The marketing department has strategies worth hundreds of millions riding on this." Sydney nodded solemnly. "I understand, Lisa. Not even my mother will see this." But that night, when she returned to her hotel room at the Four Seasons, the costume was still in her bag. She was allowed to take it for early morning fittings to get used to moving in it. The security trusted her. The hotel room was quiet, the lights of Los Angeles twinkling beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Sydney unzipped the garment bag and held up the costume. In the privacy of her room, she put it on one more time. Looking in the full-length mirror, she didn't see Sydney Sweeney from Spokane. She saw Spider-Woman. She saw the action figures that would bear her likeness. She saw the little girls who would wear her costume for Halloween. She saw her legacy. She picked up her phone and took a selfie. Just for herself. She wouldn't share it with anyone. It was just to remember this moment, this feeling of dreams coming true. That single photo, 3.2 megabytes of data stored on her iPhone, would cost her $50 million and destroy her life. But worse than the money would be discovering who would betray her. Sydney's closest friend was Melissa Chong. They had met on the first day at Juilliard, 2 small-town girls lost in New York City. While other students had trust funds and famous parents, Sydney and Melissa had waited tables, cleaned offices, done whatever it took to pay tuition. They'd shared everything: a tiny Washington Heights apartment with rats and radiator heat, ramen dinners when they couldn't afford anything else, clothes for auditions, dreams of making it big. Melissa had held Sydney when her father died. Sydney had talked Melissa off the ledge when she wanted to quit acting. Now, 10 years later, their paths had diverged. Sydney was booking major roles while Melissa was still auditioning for Asian Best Friend No. 2 parts. But their friendship had endured. Or so Sydney thought. 2 weeks after the costume fitting, they were at Sydney's new house in the Hollywood Hills. It wasn't a mansion. Sydney was still cautious with money, but it was beautiful. Mid-century modern with walls of glass, a pool, a view of the city. "I'm so proud of you, Sid," Melissa said, pouring more wine. They were on the deck, the city lights spread below them like scattered diamonds. "This house, Euphoria, and now Marvel? You're living our dream." "Your turn is coming, Mel." "I know it. How's Marvel going?" "I'm so curious. The secrecy must be insane." "Amazing. But yeah, I can't say anything. The NDA is terrifyingly strict." "Come on." Melissa laughed, but there was something sharp in it. "I won't tell anyone. I'm your best friend. Remember when I kept your secret about dating Jacob? I'm a vault. Sydney hesitated. The wine was making her warm and loose. Melissa was right. They'd kept each other's secrets for a decade. Through bad relationships, family drama, career disappointments. This was Melissa. Okay, but promise. You won't say a word to anyone. Not even your mom. I'll take it to my grave. Melissa made an exaggerated cross over her heart. Sydney pulled out her phone, scrolling through her photos. Want to see something incredible? Melissa leaned in, her eyes widening as Sydney showed the costume photo. Holy shit. Is this real? Are you Spider-Woman?
Yes.
But seriously, don't tell anyone. I could lose everything. The contract has this insane penalty clause. Melissa hugged her tight. Never. Your secret is safe with me. God, Sydney, you look amazing. You're going to be the best Spider-Woman ever. They spent the rest of the night talking about Sydney's future, about how she'd use her Marvel clout to help Melissa get auditions, about how they'd navigate fame together. What Sydney didn't notice was Melissa taking her own phone out when Sydney went to the bathroom. She didn't see her quickly photographing Sydney's phone screen where the photo was still displayed. She didn't catch the calculating look in her best friend's eyes as she did the math on what such a photo might be worth. 2 weeks later, Sydney was on set, preparing for a crucial scene. She was in the makeup trailer at 5 a.m., letting the artists transform her into Spider-Woman. Her phone was supposed to be off, but she'd forgotten. It started buzzing incessantly. Someone really wants to reach you, said Carla, her makeup artist. But the buzzing didn't stop. Finally, Carla checked her own phone. Her face went pale. Sydney, you need to see this. Twitter had exploded, trending worldwide at #1. Hashtag SpiderWomanLeak. With trembling hands, Sydney clicked on the hashtag, and her blood froze. The costume photo was everywhere. Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Entertainment sites were already running stories. First look at Spider-Woman, screamed Variety. Marvel's security breach, shouted The Hollywood Reporter.
But how?
Only Melissa had seen it. And she would never. The trailer door burst open. Jenny Martinez, Fege's assistant, stood there, her usually composed face flushed with panic. Sydney, Kevin wants you immediately. Now. The walk to Fege's office felt like a death march. But what awaited her there was worse than being fired. It was complete destruction. Fege's office was a museum of Marvel history. Captain America's shield hung on one wall. Iron Man's helmet sat in a glass case. It was a shrine to the empire Fege had built, and Sydney had just committed sacrilege. The room was full. Victoria Alonso, Luis Desposito, Trin Tran, Marvel's entire senior management team. Their faces were masks of cold disappointment. Sydney, explain this. Fege turned his laptop toward her. On the screen wasn't just the costume photo. There was a forensic breakdown of its metadata. The XIF data showed everything: the date taken, the location, and most damningly, the device, Sydney Sweeney's iPhone 14 Pro. I only took it for myself. I didn't share it with anyone. Then how did it get on the internet? Victoria Alonso's voice was sharp. Sydney's mind raced. She couldn't mention Melissa. She couldn't betray her friend. My iCloud must have been hacked. Fege's face turned red. Sydney, don't lie to us. Our security team has been working all night. This photo was sent from your phone, via WhatsApp, to Melissa Chong. August 15th, 11:47 p.m. The room spun. How did they know? Melissa is my friend. She wouldn't do that. Linda Torres, Marvel's chief lawyer, stepped forward. She placed a manila folder on Fege's desk. Ms. Sweeney, Melissa Chong sold the photo for $50,000. We have proof. Linda opened the folder. Bank records, text messages, screenshots of negotiations with TMZ. $50,000 wired to her account. August 28th, exactly 1 day before the leak. Tears began streaming down Sydney's face. Melissa, her best friend, the person who'd held her through everything. There's more, Linda continued. Melissa has been shopping around other information. Your call times, hotel locations, personal conversations. She's been recording you for months. The betrayal was so complete that Sydney couldn't process it. Clause 47B is very clear, Linda said. Immediate termination. But Sydney looked up hopefully. If you take responsibility, apologize publicly, and initiate legal action against Melissa Chong, maybe we can convince the board to reconsider. Sydney thought about their decade of friendship. I can't sue her. She used the money for a Mercedes down payment, Linda said dryly. Still, Sydney shook her head.
No.
I won't. Sydney. Feige stood up. I'm asking for the last time. Will you sue Melissa Chong?
No.
I can't. That moment of misguided loyalty would cost Sydney everything. Then we have no choice, Feige said. Your contract is terminated. Spider-Woman goes to Anya Taylor-Joy. And the $50 million penalty will be enforced. Kevin, please. This was my childhood dream. One mistake ruined our entire marketing plan. You can never be in any Marvel project again. The MCU is closed to you forever. Security escorted her out. In the corridor, she passed Tom Holland, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, all looking at her with pity. That night, Sydney texted Melissa. How could you do this? Reply, I'm sorry. My mom is sick. You're rich. I have nothing. By morning, her entire world had collapsed. Melissa was on Good Morning America, crying. Sydney pressured me to leak the photo. She wanted buzz. When it backfired, she blamed me. Within hours, Warner Brothers pulled her from their HBO series. Sony recast her role with Anya Taylor-Joy. Sponsorships canceled. Her agency dropped her. Even her publicist quit. Her mother called from Spokane. Come home. It's over. I'm an actress. I won't give up. You owe $50 million. No one will hire you. Face reality. Sydney's accounts were frozen. She had $1,247 left. The following months were hell. Sydney sold her house, her car, everything. She moved to a $1,200 studio in Van Nuys. At a 99-cent store buying ramen, she ran into actress Elena Rodriguez. Sydney, I heard about Marvel. So fucked up what Melissa did.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm shooting a tiny indie film. $1,500 for 2 weeks. Interested? Sydney's eyes filled with tears. Someone was offering her work.
Yes.
Please. 6 months later, Catherine called with shocking news. Melissa went to the FBI. She confessed everything. What? She stole the photo while you were in the bathroom. She's been arrested for fraud. You weren't her only victim. She was selling celebrity information. The betrayal was complete, but the damage was done. Sydney got the indie role. Broken Wings, about a woman rebuilding after losing everything. The film went to Sundance. During Q&A, how did you prepare for this role? I didn't. I lived it. Standing ovation. Paul Anderson from A24 approached. We'd like to work with you. I have baggage. The Marvel situation. We know. We care about talent. A24's The Lighthouse Keeper's Daughter showcased Sydney like never before. Critics raved. Sydney Sweeney delivers a masterclass. From Marvel disaster to Oscar contention. When nominations came, Sydney was working at a diner. Her phone exploded. Best Supporting Actress nominee. A text from an unknown number. Congratulations. KF. Kevin Feige. 3 days later, he called. Can we meet? In his office, Feige looked tired. How we handled your situation was wrong. Melissa's confession revealed the premeditation. You were a victim. It doesn't matter now.
It does.
I want you back. Not as Spider-Woman, as Black Cat. Complex antihero role. Perfect for your new range. The fans hate me. Fans love redemption stories. 3 films. 20 million each. No social media restrictions. What about the $50 million penalty? What penalty? Must be a clerical error. Sydney understood. This was his apology. Oscar night. Sydney wore borrowed Versace. She lost to Cate Blanchett, but didn't care. She'd been nominated. She called Feige. I accept. On one condition, help Melissa's other fraud victims.
Done.
That's very gracious. I just understand losing everything. Marvel announced Sydney as Black Cat. The internet exploded. First day on set, Tom Holland approached. Welcome back. I leaked way more than you. You're Spider-Man. I was expendable. Not anymore. 2 years later, Black Cat, 9 Lives premiered to rave reviews. Sydney had transformed a potential superhero cliché into something deeper. At the premiere, a reporter asked, "Any regrets?"
No.
That pain made me stronger. Do you forgive Melissa? I forgive, but can't forget. Advice for young actors? Follow NDAs. Trust carefully. Learn to rise when you fall. Sydney Sweeney, the only actor fired from Marvel and brought back. The $50 million selfie cost her everything but gave her something priceless: belief in herself. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find out who you really are. And sometimes the universe gives you a second chance to prove that you deserve it. Standing on that red carpet, cameras flashing, fans cheering for Black Cat, Sydney thought about the girl who'd taken a selfie in a hotel room. That girl had been naive, trusting, careless. But she'd also been talented, determined, and ultimately unbreakable. Marvel had tried to destroy her. Hollywood had written her off. Her best friend had betrayed her. But she'd survived it all and come back stronger. Miss Sweeney, one more question. A reporter called out. What would you tell your younger self? Sydney smiled. I'd tell her that the photo will cost her everything. But I'd also tell her that everything isn't what she thinks it is. Sometimes you have to burn it all down to build something better. The reporters kept shouting questions, but Sydney had said enough. She walked into the theater where her comeback film was about to premiere, where Kevin Feige would shake her hand and welcome her back to the family, where the audience would see that Sydney Sweeney wasn't just a cautionary tale. She was a phoenix, and this was her rising.